One of the reasons God established the Catholic Church is to welcome sinners who desire to turn from their sin, who are really seeking God's grace to change, not to accommodate those who desire to remain in sin, but rather even throw them out. The Church is to convert sinners and to aid them to become holy and saintly through the sacraments and through the grace of God. For in Jesus Christ, the fullness of righteousness has been revealed by grace, and he teaches us that by grace we ought to be holy. Here we notice Jesus acknowledges the righteousness of the Pharisees, which can be understood as those who are living in a state of grace in the church, outside of serious sin, who in turn look down upon those who are still struggling with mortal sins, and they really desire to live a righteous life. It's important to understand the saving sacrifice of Jesus Christ, and if you are outside of any serious sin as a Christian, it is by God's grace primarily, and then obviously secondarily your own will as you cooperate with this grace. It's a matter of grace perfecting our nature to be as holy as we ought to be. Therefore, there is no boasting, but only room for humble service for the salvation of all in the church. And this is the fault of the Pharisees. They attributed their righteousness to themselves without acknowledging God's grace. Therefore, they failed to have the proper sympathy for the sinners, approaching God in Christ, and they forgot about their own sinfulness. And that it was by leaning on God, His holy law, and receiving His mercy and grace that they were led to live a righteous life. Or properly put, they were justified by grace. For the whole point of the sacrifice of Christ and the law is to be in communion with God. And this is why the law does not save, but God Himself, who gives grace to the soul to live uprightly, which pours forth from the sacrifice of the Lamb, who forgives and shows mercy to draw us out of sin and into communion with God. The Pharisees failed to see this, that they had God in their life, and He was the one that kept them from sin by the beauty of His teachings, whereas the sinners who were approaching Jesus did not have God, or they may have abandoned Him, and they were experiencing the suffering from their very own sins. Their hands were stretched out seeking mercy and salvation. They failed to see that every human person was created by God, and God has this real heart and desire for the salvation of all, not their condemnation. He was teaching them that the sinner needs grace and mercy to leave sin and be redeemed. Also, to not prevent those who are seeking mercy and grace to change their lives, to not stand in the way of God's mission of redemption, but rather to seek to help them find the grace and mercy they need to be saved by welcoming the repentant sinner